The alien woman lowered her voice. The alien woman said the one thing I feared. The hall was built to impress fear and respect at the same time. It floated above a blue gas giant, held in place by gravity anchors older than most human cities. Light from the planet below shone through transparent walls, casting slow-moving waves of color across the polished floor. Dozens of alien species stood in organized circles, their shapes, sizes, and movements carefully separated to avoid cultural offense. Some had armor grown into their skin, some wore floating symbols instead of clothes, others stood perfectly still, watching everything with eyes that never blinked. At the center of it all stood the humans. They were smaller than most of the others, softer. Fragile, some would say. Their suits were simple, dark, and practical. No glowing crests, no biological weapons on display, just fabric, metal, and quiet confidence. Elias Verne stood at the front of the human delegation. His hair was dark, his face calm, though his heart beat faster than he allowed to show. He had trained for this moment for most of his adult life. First contact had already happened years ago, but this was different. This was the day humanity would be judged as a permanent member of the Galactic Coalition. He listened as the final speaker finished their speech, something long and ceremonial spoken in layered tones that translators struggled to flatten into human language. When the sound faded, a low hum passed through the hall. The meeting was supposed to end with applause, formal acceptance, and celebration. Instead, one figure stepped forward. She did not look powerful. That was what made Elias notice her. The alien woman was shorter than Elias, her body wrapped in smooth, pale fabric that matched her light blue skin. Her face was narrow, her eyes large and dark, reflecting the lights of the hall. There were faint lines along her temples, signs of great age by her species' standards. She carried no guards, no visible weapons, no symbols of rank. Yet the moment she moved, several other delegates went silent. Elias felt it like pressure in the air. She stopped a few steps away from him and inclined her head slightly. The universal gesture of respect had been adapted by hundreds of species over centuries. Humans had learned it quickly. "Elias Verne of Earth," she said, her voice smooth and clear through the translator. "May I speak with you privately?" That was unexpected. Murmurs spread through the hall. Private conversations at this level were rare and usually dangerous. Elias glanced briefly toward his team. They did not react, but their eyes told him to be careful. He nodded. "Of course." The alien woman turned and walked toward a smaller chamber branching off the main hall. Elias followed. The doors closed behind them with a soft sound that felt far too final. Inside, the room was simple. A circular table, two seats adjusted automatically to fit their bodies. The walls dimmed, cutting off the noise and movement of the larger gathering. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Elias studied her carefully. He had read hundreds of files, watched thousands of hours of recordings. He knew many species on site. He did not know hers. "You are not listed among the primary delegates," he said carefully. She gave a faint smile. "That is because I am not here to represent my people. I am here to represent history." That answer did not ease his tension. She sat down, folding her hands in front of her. Elias took his seat across from her. "There is something you must understand," she continued. "What is happening today was never meant to happen this way." Elias kept his voice calm. "Humanity has followed every requirement. We have shared our technology, our history, our mistakes. We have complied with every restriction placed upon us." "Yes," she said softly, "that is what worries us." The words settled heavily in the air. Elias frowned. "Worries you?" She leaned forward slightly, her eyes focusing on his face with unsettling intensity. Then she did something strange. She lowered her voice. The translator adjusted automatically, but the act itself carried meaning older than language. It was a sign of secrecy, of danger. "Earth," she said, "is not classified as a developing world." Elias blinked. Then what is it classified as? She held his gaze. A sealed world. The word struck him harder than any insult could have. That's not possible, Elias said. Sealed worlds are. Worlds isolated by the coalition because of existential risk, she finished. Yes, that is correct. Elias stood slowly, his chair sliding back. If Earth were sealed, we would know. Our history was altered, she said, her lowered voice steady and calm. Not erased. Adjusted, redirected, softened. Elias felt cold spread through his chest. That's a serious accusation, he said. Humanity remembers its wars, its failures. We are not ignorant of our past. She nodded. You remember what you were allowed to remember. Silence stretched between them. Elias searched her face for deception, arrogance, anything that could explain this as manipulation. He found none, only something close to regret. Why? He asked finally. Why would anyone do that? She sat back, her expression distant. Because the first time humanity reached the stars, the galaxy burned. Elias' breath caught. That's not funny, he said quietly. I am not joking, she replied. And I am not accusing you, not the you that exists now. She raised one hand and the air above the table shimmered. A three-dimensional image formed, grainy and unstable. Star systems flashed into view. Ships unlike anything Elias had ever seen moved across the display, sharp and angular, marked with symbols that felt strangely familiar. These are not coalition ships, Elias said. No, she agreed. They were human. His mind rejected the idea instantly. We barely left our solar system until a few centuries ago. That is what you believe, she said. The truth is you left once before. The image shifted. A battle erupted among the stars. Human ships moved with terrifying precision, adapting mid-fight, changing tactics faster than their enemies could respond. Entire fleets fell apart under coordinated strikes that showed no hesitation, no mercy. These recordings are incomplete, she said. Many were destroyed. Even so, what remains is enough to frighten civilizations that have existed for millions of years. Elias felt his hands clench. We're not monsters, he said. No, she replied. You were worse. He looked at her sharply, anger flaring. Then why are we still alive? Her gaze softened. Because even then you chose to stop. The image changed again. Human ships withdrew. Signals flashed. Entire armadas powered down and vanished into deep space. You won a war that could have made you rulers of half the galaxy, she said. And then you disappeared. Elias whispered, why don't we remember any of this? Because you asked us to help you forget. His heart pounded. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, she said. Your species realized something terrifying about itself. That your strength was not just in weapons or technology, but in your will. Your ability to adapt, endure, and escalate without limit. You feared what you would become if challenged again. She met his eyes. So you chose to start over. The room felt smaller. He could hear his own breathing. You sealed yourselves, she continued. With our help, you placed limits in your own genetics. You buried knowledge beneath oceans and continents. You turned Earth into a cradle instead of a forge. Elias sank back into his chair. And now, he asked. She hesitated. Now, she said, you are close to remembering. Outside the room, distant vibrations passed through the station as ships maneuvered. Life went on, unaware that everything humanity believed about itself had just cracked open. Elias stared at the image hovering above the table, at the ghost of a humanity he did not recognize but somehow felt connected to. You lowered your voice, he said slowly. Why? Her answer came without hesitation. Because there are those listening, she said, who believe the galaxy would be safer if Earth were sealed forever. She paused. And others who believe it would be safer if Earth were destroyed before you remember who you were. The words he feared settled into place. Elias lifted his head, fear and resolve mixing in his eyes. And what do you believe? He asked. The alien woman looked at him for a long moment. I believe, she said quietly, that the galaxy has underestimated humanity twice. The lights in the room brightened slightly, signaling the end of the private session. Outside, the coalition waited. Elias stood, his legs steady despite the storm inside him. Whatever humanity had been, whatever it might become again, this was only the beginning. And somewhere in the vast dark between stars, old fears were waking up. The doors of the private chamber opened without sound. Elias Verne stepped back into the great hall, his face calm, his posture controlled, but his thoughts were anything but steady. The light from the gas giant below washed over the floor again, bright and beautiful as if nothing had changed. Around him, the delegates resumed their quiet movements and low conversations. To them, the universe was still orderly. To Elias, it no longer was. The alien woman walked beside him, her pace slow, her presence drawing careful attention without demanding it. No one stopped them. No one questioned her authority. That alone told Elias how dangerous she truly was. They returned to the human delegation's position. Elias' team glanced at him, reading his expression the way soldiers read a battlefield. They saw concern. They did not see fear. The formal session resumed. Voices echoed. Resolutions were read. Applause followed, measured and polite. Humanity was accepted into the Galactic Coalition. The words rang hollow in Elias' ears. When the meeting finally ended, ships began to depart the station one by one, streaks of light cutting through the void. The human vessel waited in its assigned dock, systems ready, crew alert. Elias stood at the viewport staring at the stars. The alien woman joined him again as if she had never left. "You should return to Earth," she said. "Soon." Elias did not turn. "You said we are close to remembering." "Yes. How close? Close enough that others have noticed." That made him turn. "You mean other species," she nodded. "Some remember the old war more clearly than others. Some lost entire worlds. Some lost everything. And they blame us." "They fear you," she corrected. "Blame fades, fear does not." Elias folded his arms. "If what you showed me is true, then we chose restraint. We chose peace." "You chose survival," she said. "Peace was a side effect." He studied her face. "You still haven't told me who you are." A faint smile touched her lips. "My name does not translate well into your language. The closest meaning would be caretaker." "Caretaker of what?" "Of dangerous things," she replied. They boarded the human ship together, though no announcement marked her presence. The crew accepted her without comment, guided by quiet instructions sent ahead of time. Elias suspected she had overridden more than a few protocols to make that happen. As the ship detached from the station, Elias watched the massive structure drift away. Somewhere inside it, records existed that could rewrite human history. Somewhere beyond it, forces were already deciding whether humanity deserved to continue. The jump to faster-than-light space came smoothly. Stars stretched, blurred, then vanished into pale streams of light. Only then did Elias allow himself to sit. "Tell me everything," he said. The caretaker stood near the center of the observation deck. The stars beyond the viewport moved like slow rivers. She clasped her hands behind her back. "The sealed world designation," she began, "is the highest classification the Coalition can assign without authorizing extinction." Elias' jaw tightened. "Earth was sealed not because you were evil," she continued, "but because you were unpredictable. Humanity adapts faster under pressure than any species we have ever encountered. You do not simply respond to threats, you grow from them. That doesn't sound like a crime." "In a quiet galaxy," she said. "It is." She gestured, and another hologram appeared. This one showed genetic strands, layered and complex. "After the war," she said, "human leaders approached us with a request. They wanted limits." "Limits?" Elias echoed. "Yes, emotional dampening in extreme stress, reduced instinctive aggression, shortened memory retention for certain cognitive patterns. Nothing that would break you, only enough to slow you." Elias stared at the image. "You're saying we altered ourselves?" "With guidance," she replied. "You feared escalation more than defeat." The ship hummed softly around them. Elias thought of human history as he knew it, the long struggles, the repeated wars, the suffering and rebuilding. We still fought each other, he said. We still caused pain, she nodded. You were never made gentle, only smaller. The word hurt more than he expected. What about technology, he asked. If we once crossed the galaxy, why did we fall so far behind? You didn't fall, she said. You buried it. Vast stores of knowledge were hidden where you would not find them until you were ready. Some beneath oceans, some in places your own planet would erase over time. Elias felt a strange pull in his chest, a sense of loss he could not explain. And now, he asked, what changed? She looked at him carefully. You changed. He waited. You survived extinction events you should not have, she continued. You recovered from internal division faster each time. Your technology advanced in uneven leaps, not steady progress. And most importantly, when you reached the stars again, you did not conquer. Elias exhaled slowly. We explored, she said. You observed, you traded, you withdrew when challenged instead of escalating. That confused the galaxy. And scared it, Elias added. Yes. The ship systems chimed softly as they passed a navigation marker. Elias barely noticed. You said some want Earth sealed forever, he said, others destroyed. And some, she said, believe the risk is worth it. Which side are you on? She did not answer immediately. When I first studied humanity, she said instead, I believed sealing your world was mercy. For you and for us. I watched your species struggle, stumble, suffer. I expected bitterness. And, Elias asked. I saw endurance, she said. I saw compassion where none was required. I saw you help weaker species even when it cost you. That is not what the old records described. Elias leaned forward. So why tell me now? Because the genetic locks are failing, she said quietly. The words hit him hard. Failing how? Your population is too large, your technology too advanced, your stressors too constant. The limits you placed on yourselves are wearing thin. Elias' mind raced. What happens when they break? She met his gaze. That depends on who you choose to be. The journey back to Earth took days. During that time, the caretaker shared fragments of truth, never overwhelming, always measured. She spoke of human commanders who had argued fiercely against domination, of scientists who had proposed the seal as an act of responsibility, of alien councils divided between fear and admiration. Elias listened, learned, carried the weight quietly. When Earth finally came into view, blue and white against the black, Elias felt a deep, aching pride. That's home, he said. Yes, she agreed, and a sleeping giant. The ship entered orbit without incident. Messages flooded in. Congratulations, questions, requests for statements. Elias ignored them all. He stood at the viewport, watching the planet turn slowly below. If the galaxy decides we are too dangerous, he said, will they attack? Not openly, she replied. Fear prefers shadows. Sabotage, isolation, pressure. Yes, Elias nodded. Then we need time. Time, she said, is the one thing the galaxy may not give you. He turned to her, resolve hardening. Then we make them wait. She studied him, and for the first time, Elias saw something like relief in her eyes. You sound like the old ones, she said. Maybe, Elias replied. Or maybe we sound like ourselves without forgetting who we are. Below them, Earth continued its silent spin, unaware of the eyes upon it, unaware of the history buried beneath its surface. And deep within human minds, something long restrained stirred, not with rage, not with hunger for conquest, but with memory. Humanity was not waking up angry. It was waking up aware. Far away, in places where old scars still burned, alarms quietly began to sound. Earth did not feel different. That was what troubled Elias Verne the most. From orbit, the planet looked peaceful. Clouds drifted. Lights glittered on the night side. Traffic moved along invisible paths. Billions of people lived their lives without knowing that their world carried a label most of them had never heard of. A sealed world. A risk. The human ship docked at the orbital station above Earth, and Elias disembarked without ceremony. The caretaker remained aboard, her presence officially unrecorded. She had insisted on it. Too many eyes, she had said. Too many old fears. Elias understood. He traveled down to the surface alone, landing in the diplomatic complex built along the coast. The ocean stretched endlessly beyond glass walls, waves breaking in steady rhythm. Reporters waited outside. Officials waited inside. Questions waited everywhere. Elias asked for time. That request alone sent ripples through Earth's leadership. In a secure room deep beneath the complex, Elias stood before a small group of trusted figures: scientists, military advisors, cultural historians, people chosen not for power but for restraint. He told them everything. The sealed world, the forgotten war, the genetic limits, the fear still lingering among the stars. Silence followed. No one laughed. No one accused him of madness. That worried him more than disbelief would have. Finally, Dr. Myra Chen spoke. She was a geneticist, known for challenging accepted theories and surviving political backlash with quiet stubbornness. If this is true, she said slowly, there would be signs. Elias nodded. There are. She raised an eyebrow. You've already seen them. Yes. She leaned forward. So have we. The room shifted, screens activated, data appeared, charts, patterns, anomalies long dismissed as errors or outliers, human stress responses that exceeded predicted limits, cognitive adaptability that spiked under crisis, emotional bonding in combat situations stronger than any known species. We thought these were quirks, Dr. Chen continued, evolutionary accidents, but if what you're saying is true, they're leftovers. Remnants, Elias said. A military advisor cleared his throat. If we were once capable of crossing the galaxy and winning wars, why don't we remember tactics, formations, strategies? Some of you do, the caretaker's voice said. Every head turned. She stood near the wall, having entered without anyone noticing. Her presence was calm, but the effect was immediate. Security systems flickered, then steadied. She inclined her head. In fragments, instincts. The reason human commanders often succeed without knowing why. The reason your soldiers adapt faster than simulations predict. The advisor swallowed. You're saying our best people are remembering without realizing it. Yes, Dr. Chen folded her hands. And the genetic limits, they are degrading, the caretaker replied. Slowly, unevenly, not everyone at once. Elias felt a chill. Meaning some people will change before others. Yes, the room grew tense. What kind of change? Someone asked. The caretaker did not answer immediately. Increased memory recall under stress, faster pattern recognition, reduced hesitation when choosing between survival and morality. That sounds dangerous, the military advisor said. It can be, she replied, or it can be guided. Elias stepped forward. That's why we're not telling the public. Not yet. Murmurs of agreement followed. We don't panic Earth, Elias continued, and we don't give the galaxy an excuse to act. The caretaker studied him closely. You are choosing secrecy. For now, Elias said, we need to understand ourselves before others decide who we are. Days passed, then weeks. The work began quietly. Deep-sea probes were redirected. Satellite scans focused on unusual geological formations. Old myths and legends were re-examined, not as fantasy but as corrupted memory, and they found things. Structures beneath the ocean floor that did not match any known human construction. Materials resistant to pressure and time. Symbols etched into stone that matched patterns from the caretaker's recordings. Buried vaults, not alien, human. Elias stood in a submerged facility as lights flickered on for the first time in thousands of years. Water drained away. Doors opened as if they had been waiting. Inside were records, not words but experiences. Neural imprints designed to be activated only under specific conditions. Warnings, not instructions for conquest, not plans for domination. Reminders. "We chose this," one imprint said, voice steady and tired. "We chose to forget." Another followed. "If you are hearing this, then the galaxy has not learned from us, or you have not learned from yourselves." Elias felt his throat tighten. The caretaker watched silently. Elsewhere, the galaxy stirred. Old monitoring stations activated. Long-dormant alliances exchanged messages filled with unease. Ships changed course without explanation. Trade slowed. Borders tightened. Human observers noticed. "They're watching us," Elias said during a late-night briefing. "Yes," Dr. Chen replied, "and testing." Sabotage attempts began soon after. Minor at first. Communication delays, trade disruptions blamed on system errors. Subtle pressure meant to isolate Earth without drawing attention. Human response was calm, too calm. They rerouted, adapted, compensated faster than expected. Each problem made the system stronger. That was when the first incident happened. A human research ship vanished near the edge of Coalition space. No distress signal, no debris. The message was clear. Elias stood before the Council of Earth, his expression hard. "They're afraid," he said, "and fear makes people reckless." "What do they want?" a counselor asked. "To see how we react," Elias replied. "Violence would confirm their worst beliefs." "And restraint," another asked, "confuses them." The caretaker spoke. "In the old war, this is where humanity made its most dangerous choice." Elias looked at her. "Which was?" "You stopped." The council fell silent. "We will not strike back," Elias said. "Not yet," some protested, others nodded. The galaxy waited. Another attempt followed. This time a colony world was pressured to cut ties with Earth. Economic threats, political isolation. Humans responded by offering aid, food, technology, no conditions. The colony refused at first, then accepted. Word spread. "This isn't what they expected, Doctor." Chen said quietly. "No," Elias agreed. "It's worse." Because fear had no place to land. The caretaker observed everything with growing intensity. "You are doing something new," she said one evening as they watched Earth from orbit again. "We're being ourselves," Elias replied. She shook her head. "The old humanity would have seen this as weakness. You are turning it into strength." Below them, on Earth, something else was happening. People were changing, not dramatically, not visibly, but stories began to circulate. Soldiers describing moments of perfect clarity in combat. Doctors making impossible decisions under pressure. Engineers solving problems they had never studied. No rage, no hunger for power, just awareness. Elias received a final report from the deep-sea vaults. At the center of the largest facility was a single message, repeated in multiple languages. "We feared what we could become. We feared what others would force us to be. So we chose to become something else." Elias closed his eyes. Far beyond Earth, fleets gathered quietly. Old wounds throbbed. Ancient enemies debated whether to act now or wait. The caretaker looked at Elias, her voice low. "They are running out of patience." "So are we," Elias replied, but his tone held no threat, only certainty. Humanity was not returning to what it was. It was deciding what it would be next. And the galaxy, watching closely, did not yet understand why that was the most frightening outcome of all. The first open move from the galaxy did not come as an attack. It came as an invitation. A coalition envoy arrived at the edge of Earth's space in a ship older than most human nations. It carried no weapons, but its hull was marked with symbols Elias now recognized from the deep-sea vaults, symbols from the old war. Elias stood in the command center as the message played. "The Galactic Coalition requests an emergency council," the envoy said. "Earth's presence is required. Failure to attend will be interpreted as non-cooperation." The words were polite. The meaning was not. "They want to put us on the stage," Dr. Chen said quietly, "in front of everyone." "And control the story," Elias replied. The caretaker stood apart from the others, her expression unreadable. "They are divided," she said. "Some wish to bind you with laws." Others wish to provoke you into proving their fear correct. And some, Elias asked, some remember what happened last time humanity was cornered. Silence settled over the room. Elias nodded once. We'll attend. The decision shocked many. Some argued for delay. Others urged refusal. Elias listened, then raised a hand. We will not hide, he said, and we will not threaten, we go openly. The human delegation was smaller than expected. No massive fleets, no show of force. One diplomatic vessel, clean and unarmed, carrying representatives from science, culture, and defense. The caretaker joined them again, officially this time. Her presence was acknowledged but not announced. The council chamber was larger than the first. Hundreds of delegates filled the space, their attention focused sharply on the humans as they entered. Old eyes watched, old memories stirred. Elias felt it like gravity. When he reached the center, a projection activated, showing Earth rotating slowly. Blue, fragile, alive. A voice echoed through the chamber. Earth has violated containment protocols. Murmurs spread. Elias stepped forward. We were never informed we were contained. You were informed, another voice said. You chose to forget. Elias met the unseen speaker's gaze. We chose to survive. That answer caused more reaction than anger would have. Accusations followed. Data was presented. Claims of destabilization, of genetic drift, of increased human influence beyond acceptable limits. Elias listened without interruption. When the floor was finally given to him, he spoke calmly. We are aware of our history, he said. Not all of it, but enough. The chamber grew quiet. We know we frightened the galaxy once, he continued. We know we were capable of terrible escalation. And we know why we chose to stop. He gestured toward the image of Earth. We did not forget because we were weak. We forgot because we were strong enough to choose restraint. A ripple passed through the delegates. One stood, tall and sharp-featured. And yet you are awakening. Your limits are failing. How long before you return to what you were? Elias did not answer immediately. Instead, he did something no one expected. He lowered his voice. We are not returning, he said. We are moving forward. The caretaker watched closely. This was the moment history had pivoted on before. You fear our strength, Elias continued, but you misunderstand it. Humanity's greatest weapon was never our ships or our tactics. He looked around the chamber. It was our ability to stop. The words hung in the air. A sudden interruption cut through the chamber. Alarms flared, data streams spiked. Unidentified fleet entering the system, a delegate shouted. Non-coalition signatures. Elias' heart sank. The caretaker closed her eyes briefly. They chose impatience. The projection shifted. A fleet appeared, massive and aggressive, its formation unmistakably hostile. Old enemies, survivors of worlds burned in the ancient war. They will strike Earth, someone cried. The chamber erupted in chaos. Elias stepped forward again. Give us access to the defense grid. Laughter answered him, bitter, afraid. You would arm yourselves, a delegate demanded. You prove our fears. No, Elias said. We will not fire. That drew stunned silence. The hostile fleet advanced, ignoring all hails. Their intent was clear. End the threat before it fully woke. Human ships did not move to intercept. Instead, Earth transmitted. Not a threat, not a demand, a record. Footage from the deep-sea vaults flooded open channels. Images of the old war, of human fleets standing down. Of commanders ordering retreat when victory was certain. Voices followed, human voices from the past. We stop here. No more worlds. We will not become gods. The hostile fleet slowed. Confusion spread through their ranks. This was not what they expected. No weapons powering up, no tactical maneuvers. Elias spoke again, his voice steady across every channel. We remember what we were, he said, and we choose not to be that again. A long pause followed. Then slowly the hostile fleet powered down its weapons. Shock rippled through the council chamber. They listened, someone whispered. The caretaker felt something she had not felt in centuries, hope. The crisis did not end cleanly. Some ships withdrew, others remained watching. The galaxy did not suddenly trust humanity. But something fundamental had changed. Fear had cracked. In the days that followed, negotiations replaced accusations. Limits were discussed openly, not imposed in secret. Human scientists shared research on stabilizing genetic changes, not hiding them. Elias refused every request for exclusive military access. "We will not become your weapon," he said. On Earth, the subtle changes continued. People adapted, but with guidance. Education focused on ethics as much as capability. Strength paired with responsibility. The caretaker prepared to leave. "My work here may be done," she said as she stood with Elias overlooking Earth one last time. "You're welcome to stay," Elias replied. She smiled faintly. "The galaxy needs me elsewhere to calm old fears." She paused. "You have done something extraordinary." "We just chose," Elias said. "Yes," she agreed, "and that is what terrifies them most." As her ship departed, Elias watched until it vanished into the stars. Earth turned below, unchanged on the surface. But now, when the galaxy looked at it, it did not see a sealed world. It saw a choice still being made. And for the first time since the old war, the future felt unwritten. The galaxy did not relax after the crisis. If anything, it became quieter. Trade lanes reopened slowly. Patrols lingered longer than before. Messages were chosen carefully, weighed, rewritten, and delayed. Old powers watched Earth not with open hostility, but with something more dangerous: uncertainty. Elias Verne felt it every day. From his office overlooking the ocean, he followed reports that never made public channels. Small border incidents, political pressure hidden behind polite language, councils forming without human presence, then quietly dissolving when no agreement could be reached. Humanity had not frightened the galaxy by attacking. It had frightened it by refusing to. On Earth, life continued. Cities grew. Children went to school. People argued, loved, worked, and dreamed as they always had. There were no superhumans walking the streets. No sudden rise of conquerors. No signs of the monsters some feared. But beneath the surface, humanity was changing. Not faster, not stronger, clearer. Human decision-making under pressure improved. Large-scale coordination during disasters became almost effortless. When storms hit coastlines, responses were immediate and precise. When supply chains failed, solutions appeared before panic could spread. The world noticed. So did the galaxy. Elias met regularly with Dr. Chen and the others who knew the truth. They tracked the genetic changes carefully. The caretaker's warning had been correct. The old limits were fading but not collapsing. Humanity was not snapping back into its past. It was stabilizing into something new. "We're not recovering what we were, Doctor," Chen said during one briefing. "We're evolving past it." Elias nodded. "That's what scares them." "And you?" she asked. He looked at the data, then out at the ocean beyond the glass. "It makes me hopeful." The next challenge came without warning. A distant coalition world, one scarred deeply during the ancient war, experienced a planetary system failure. Power grids collapsed. Environmental controls faltered. Millions were at risk. The coalition debated for days. Sending help would expose weakness. Not sending help would mean disaster. Before a decision was reached, Earth acted. Human ships arrived quietly, carrying engineers, medical teams, and supplies. No military escort, no demands, no political conditions. The affected world panicked at first. Old memories flared. Defensive systems powered up. Human ships stopped at the edge of the system and waited. Elias watched the live feed, his hands clasped tightly. Finally, a message came through. "Why are you here?" the alien governor asked, voice shaking. "To help," Elias replied simply. "Why?" Elias paused, then answered honestly. "Because we know what it's like to rebuild." The defenses powered down. Human teams worked alongside alien crews for weeks. They shared tools, ideas, and long hours. There were no speeches, no reminders of history. When the crisis ended, the humans left. They did not ask for gratitude. They did not ask for forgiveness. The galaxy noticed. Stories spread, slowly and carefully. Worlds that had feared Earth most began to reconsider, not their fear but their assumptions. The caretaker sent one final message to Elias from deep space. "You are doing what we never imagined," she wrote. "You are healing wounds you did not cause without denying the past that created them." Elias read the message twice, then archived it. Months passed. The coalition convened again, this time at Earth's request. The chamber was full, tense, quiet. Elias stood at the center, older now, lines at the corners of his eyes earned through long nights and heavy choices. "You once sealed us because you feared what we could become," he said. "That fear was not wrong," murmurs spread. "But it is no longer complete," he continued. "We are not asking you to trust us. Trust is earned." He gestured and images appeared. Human aid missions, joint research projects, conflict resolutions where Earth had stepped back instead of forward. "We are asking you to judge us by what we choose now," Elias said. A delegate rose slowly, one of the oldest species present. "You are aware," the alien said, "that some will never forgive what your kind once did." Elias inclined his head. "We understand." "And you accept that?" the alien pressed. "Yes," Elias said. "Forgiveness is not something we can demand, only something we can live without." That answer carried weight. The debate lasted days. Voices rose, old scars reopened, but something was different. Fear no longer controlled the room. In the end, the decision was made. Earth's sealed status was lifted, not erased, not forgotten, lifted. The announcement spread across human networks in carefully chosen words. There were no celebrations in the streets, no declarations of dominance, just quiet acknowledgement. Humanity was no longer hidden. Elias stood alone that night, once again watching Earth turn beneath the stars. He thought of the old humanity, the one that had burned bright and terrified the galaxy, the one that had chosen to forget rather than rule. He understood them now. They had not been cowards. They had been tired. Humanity had needed time to grow past its own shadow. A new message arrived, this one from a distant world. "We remember the old war," it read. "We feared you. Today, we watched you save lives without asking anything in return. We are reconsidering." Elias closed his eyes. The galaxy was not healed, but it was changing. And so was humanity, not into conquerors, not into gods, but into something rare and unsettling to an ancient universe. A species that could hold immense power and still choose restraint. Far out among the stars, old watchers adjusted their models. Ancient predictions failed. The future refused to follow expected paths, because humanity, once sealed, once feared, had done the one thing no simulation had accounted for. It had learned from its past and decided not to repeat it. The stars remained vast and uncertain, but for the first time in a very long time, they no longer felt like a battlefield waiting to happen. They felt like a shared horizon, and humanity stepped forward, not loudly, not proudly, but with open eyes and steady hands.